my selling was the problem. It wasn't like the leads.
This week we're joined by James McLaren, owner of Aventus 22.
It's now my job to actually show some leadership. Coaching's my playground. I love doing it, but I'm now the business owner.
How much do you invest into the gym?
It was at least £200,000.
Because that's one thing you didn't cut is marketing.
100%. No, you can't do that. I'll get screwed if you do that. The older demographic of people, they are just a joy to have in the gym. I can't put 397 for a 6-week program on a website and expect people to sign up to it without having any understanding of how we're going to solve their problems.
What would you say to anyone else that has hesitancy around sales?
So, ultimately, I think...
We hope you enjoyed the episode. This podcast is brought to you by Legit Fit. Are you spending more time doing boring admin tasks rather than the jobs you love in your business? Are you finding your current software is providing more headaches than it is solutions? Then it's time to switch to Legit Fit. At FMA, we aim to deliver nothing but the best for our members, and that goes for the companies we partner with too. Legit Fit stands out from the crowd for several reasons. The product is slick and easy to use. They've built it based on user feedback and consistently add the most in-demand features to the platform. And finally, what really sets them apart from a lot of people is they provide world-class customer service with over 1,750 fitness professionals using Legit Fit and more switching over every day. If you want to know more about how Legit Fit can help you grow, scale, and manage your business, click the link around this video or go to legitfit.com. James, thank you for coming down to the podcast studio. How are you doing?
Really good. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So, James, you've been a client with us for 3 years now, I believe.
It's about that, yeah.
Yeah, nice, awesome. And so, what was really good is we went to the coffee shop next door to the office. Yeah. We had a conversation, and I asked how the gym was, and you said it's the best it's ever been. And we're going to dive into what that looks like right now. But it's definitely been a journey to get to that stage. And I just wanted to caveat that with it's the best it's ever been, because we might dive into some maybe more negative areas, but lessons learned that have helped you get to where you can get, that can help you get to where you are now, that I think is going to be really, really helpful for so many people listening to this podcast. So I'm really excited to dive into your journey and story and all of the trials and tribulations that you've gone through to get to where you are now. So before we do that, can we just kind of dive in with the name of the business, where it's based, the model, client base, price point? If you miss any, I'll remember to let you know.
So I'm James McLaren. The business is Aventus 22. We're based in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. The model that we run is small group personal trainers. It's 1 to 6. Price point, so like from membership, it starts at 269 and goes up to circa of just under 400 a month.
Perfect. And how many team members do you have at the moment? 5
full-time.
Okay, nice. And how long has the gym business been around?
So we opened in December of 22.
Okay,
However, the business before that, so it was called James McLaren Fitness, as everyone calls their fitness business, their name. So we actually opened the first facility in the beginning of 2018.
Okay, so first facility in 2018, and then because you've moved to your newer facility, and that was 2020.
Yeah, so that was December 22. So we were at the old place for about 4 years.
Okay, awesome. And how big was that space when you first moved in, compared to the space now?
So it was 1,300 square foot.
Okay, so quite a moderate size space.
It's now 4,300.
Nice. And did you move just because it was too small, or what was the reasons for moving?
Yeah, bit of that. We wanted to grow numbers wise. So when we were having we had 2 groups of 6 in 1,300 square foot, which is quite tight actually. So we wanted more space, and we wanted to have at least a third group in there. So obviously we can have more clients and sort of make a bigger impact. So yeah, we wanted something bigger. We wanted a bit of an upgrade. It was not necessarily spit and sawdust type facility, but it was rent wise, it was amazing to be honest with you, from an expenses side of things. But long term, I saw the vision of it to be better, so to speak. I don't think we could have stayed there 10 years.
When you moved into that location in 2018, was that your forever location, or did you know you wanted bigger? Was it a stepping stone, or were you not sure of the plan there?
So I didn't really know the plan. So an opportunity came up for that site, and decided to take it. And then it's one of those where it was kind of written on the back of a fag packet, even though I don't smoke, type thing. It's okay, we'll just see how this pans out type thing. But yeah, as time went on, obviously there was COVID in between that, which maybe we can talk about a little bit. But it just kind of got to a point where, right, this is going really well, and actually, like, kind of what's next? And it was to go a bit bigger, and a bit better, and give everything kind of an upgrade in regards to what the clients receive in regards to what they get.
And what did you build it up to in that initial space in terms of the client numbers, and what was the pricing back then?
So back then, I think we got it to, it was around like, I think it was just under like 180.
Yeah.
The price point was, I think the average yield at that time was around 200.
Okay.
£200 a month. And then, we moved into the bigger one. And then, like, membership numbers would be interesting. We can talk about that, I'm sure. But
because it's not just, we had a really interesting conversation before the recording of this. Like, some numbers are very subjective, right? So it's not necessarily about the number, but we'll go into that a little bit later on. If you could look at your kind of journey of moving into facility 1, moving into facility 2, and maybe you're given advice of someone who wanted their own gym. Do you think it's a sensible step to move into a smaller location, or do you think maybe they should go all in? Or if you could go back and do your journey again, would you do it the same, or do you think you would just go bigger initially? Obviously, this is all opinion. There's no real right or wrong answer, right?
I think I still would do it the way I've done it. I think you need to prove to yourself that you can. Going from like just being a coach to then becoming like a business owner is a massive transition. And it's one that I'm still kind of evolving day to day, even though I've kind of been in the game of that for like the last 6-7 years. So just going from being that personal trainer to the gym owner, going from that to like 4,000 square foot, I probably wouldn't recommend. Because I think you do need to kind of prove a little bit to yourself. So I probably would just start maybe somewhere in the middle. But it's very subjective on loads of different things. For
sure. But the goal at that point, right, as you said, is to go from trainer to business owner and operate a business and understand that side of things. What would you say your weaknesses were, or not weaknesses, but what were the things that you had challenges with when you went from that mode from personal training to business owner? Were there some things that you thought you could do that turned out to be much harder than they were? Any initial challenges?
So like, I think like you become an employer with people at that point, and if you're going to grow, you need people. And like, I think I have some natural leadership skills, but just because, like, I think I've heard this somewhere where you might be like the captain of like a football team or something like that, but it doesn't actually translate to managing people. Like, you might have good qualities and characteristics to be able to lead people, but you actually still need to like hone that skill of those leadership qualities that you have. So I think that was probably like one of my like kind of biggest weaknesses at the start. It's like, I need people, and I'll bring some people on board initially, particularly in like the very first gym, and it's just like there wasn't any sort of like real structure as to how they grow and like how they get better. And it's just like, they'll just come in and we'll just kind of see how it goes type thing. And
I think we'll dive into staffing because you spoke about people. So you got 5 full-timers now. How many did you have in the first location?
So the first location, it was, had 4 full-timers in that one. And then when we moved into the new site, we had a lot more, because the plan was for like, to go, like, it has the new site has a capacity for like a lot of people, and like the plan was to have a large number of people. So like I decided from like the get-go that I'm going to staff it, and I'm going to start as a mean to go on.
So you staffed for the business that you wanted initially when you moved into the new site in 2022. And so staffing is a big challenge for a lot of people in the fitness industry. They say, I can't find the right coaches. Someone comes in, they leave, they start, and they become a competitor. I would say you've got a pretty eventful process or eventful story of something that happened to you uniquely, and it'd be interesting to hear, one, what happened, but two, like, what the lessons were learned and what you do differently now. So it'd be really interesting to hear like what happened when you did staff up. Like, was it quite a rapid rate you staffed up?
So like towards when we were just about to move out of the first site, I think it ended up growing by like about another 3 or 4 team members. In quite a short space of time.
So you went from 3 to
kind of like nearly doubled.
Oh, so you went to 6 team members that you were now managing full time.
I think it ended up about 8.
Oh, eight team members. Is that including yourself or?
I think that was including me.
Okay,
About
so
8 people.
Yeah, so 8 members of the team that you had to single-handedly manage, as well as the new gym, marketing, sales, and every other job that is involved running the gym. You had to look after 8 people and make sure they're all doing the thing they needed to do at the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously a lot of challenges come with that process. And what happened? What did you experience?
So, I think fundamentally when we moved from site 1 to site 2, there was the product wasn't as good as it needed to be.
So does that mean that it was at a certain standard within the first one and that didn't translate to the second one, or you wanted it to be better and it wasn't?
So I tried to set a precedence when we moved in site 2 to the team that, right, what's got us here, it's not going to get us there. Like it's going from, from product being good, it needs to be better. Like from every single aspect of the service, it needs to be better. And fundamentally, that wasn't quite where it needed to be. And then there's certain development that was needed amongst particularly newer members of staff. And all we did was, when I took on more newer staff, is I just doubled the problem. Yeah. And when we opened, it's just we've got a lot of green staff where they're not being led properly, and that's on me. And they didn't have enough tools to deliver what we needed. So then I'm getting frustrated that I'm not delivering what we need to do. Yeah. I'm not giving them the tools, and I've actually just doubled the problem myself.
Yeah. So your expectations weren't being met of what the product wanted to be. Yeah. But you also weren't facilitating the staff for what they needed to meet the expectation. So you were in a little bit of a doom loop with staff.
Yeah, very much and I didn't really know how to get out of it either. To be honest with you. It was very right. We moved into this new site. In January, the January that we opened, so January 23, we had 52 referrals come in.
Wow. What, in 1 month?
Yeah. So we sent out a Christmas card in December.
Yes, I love the Christmas card campaign. Yeah. So there's 3 things in my brain, and I want to make sure that we hit them all. Yeah. I'm just going to quickly type down the Christmas card campaign, and then we're going to go back to it, because there was something you said about the standards of service. And what I wanted to ask is, how were you measuring the standards of the service between site 1 and site 2 that you were able to recognize it wasn't where you wanted to be? How were you measuring the standards of service? What were the markers that you were looking at that would tell you this is good or this isn't where I need it to be? And then we'll move back to staff. But I thought it was a really interesting point, so I wanted to catch that.
So it's just main KPIs really. Our conversion rate of those 52 was poor.
Oh, referrals as well. Yeah. So it was So the offer of the referral was 30 days or 6 weeks, or?
I think it was 30 days. I can't quite remember, but we put a voucher in a Christmas card, and we had 52 referrals. So we didn't even need to mark it in January of 23. But of that, I think the conversion rate from that month was 19%.
Wow.
19%.
Yeah. Okay.
And these are from people who,
their partners were telling about you, raving.
Yeah, they're saying good things, and it's just that was quite a strong indicator at that point that this isn't quite right. And then even if you just put KPIs to one side about retention and conversion, this, that, and the other, people were telling us.
Yeah, people were just saying.
People actually said, we were getting feedback from people going, this is kind of not some coaches are good, some are not so good, and it's just we were actually getting that feedback. And I know there's a stat that only 4% of people. 4% of your customers will actually tell you whether they have a problem with your service. Well, there was definitely 4% of people telling us they were dissatisfied with what they were getting from us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there were probably people that were silently not enjoying the service as well. So let's dive into that, and then we will continue on staff. But so 19% of those 52 people, so roughly around.
I can't remember the exact number.
Is it 10 people, I believe, converted. So it's 40 people that went, this isn't up to scratch. Now, what do you think that went wrong? Was it too many people in 1 month, or was it that the systems weren't if you were to analyze step by step what you could have done better in hindsight?
I think it's a combination of things really. I think definitely having an intake of that many people definitely was too many. I think if you had a very established team, which I would say probably most small group personal training gyms don't have a fully, let's just say every single coach there's got at least 5 years under their belt. If you had a team like that, they probably could deal with it.
Yeah.
It would still be a challenge.
Yeah.
But
to take on 50 new people, that's it.
But you would need a very, very good team, very experienced, very highly skilled to be able to deal with that sort of volume and still maintain service for the members that are already there.
Especially as the onboarding process, there's far more hands-on attention with each member.
Yeah.
So to have 50 people at that time, would be very difficult. I think most people listening to this are probably thinking, I'd struggle with 50 people through the door as well. So like kind of going back just from the marketing perspective, there's maybe two options of what you could have done. You could have split people to some people start in February, like, hey, we limit our capacity to this to ensure quality control, so we can get you started on this. Does that work for you? Or potentially have some urgency on the gift, maybe. But I'm just thinking of what could be done from that side.
They took action on the gift really quite quickly. It's like, we're having 52. Obviously, people took action in January, like throughout the month of January, and they did scatter. I think some of them did scatter into February as well. But ultimately, it's kind of one of those where there's an opportunity here where we could grow quite quickly. And January is typically a good month for growth. And historically, it has been a good month for us, January.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool, right. We're going to really need all hands to the pump this month. And let's just kind of see how this goes. But it definitely failed miserably.
Yeah. So one was the volume. And then like when they walked into the service, what was happening that needed to happen that wasn't happening?
So it's very hard to sort of pinpoint what that was. Definitely should have asked for more feedback from those people at the time.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those where it's like, I don't feel like there was maybe enough investigation at that point. It's just like, perhaps this is just like, okay, maybe there's just too many people type thing. But then over time, you start realizing what the actual issues are.
Yeah, and start figuring out what is going on there. And I suppose you've moved to a bigger location, bigger team, big influx of clients.
Yeah.
And it's just a process of you're in a 1,300 square foot space, you move to a place triple the size, and have an influx of clients, influx of team. And to be able to go from that skill set to operate to this skill set to operate probably takes time.
Yeah.
And obviously it's lessons are learned along the way. I
think it was one of those where I just tried to do it too quickly.
Yeah.
And actually, like, some of the people that we took on that came to the new site probably didn't need taking on at that point. Actually, probably just needed to fix some of the smaller leaks in the business at the time, and then grow kind of like at an organic rate, as opposed to, right, we're here, we've put investment into this, right, we need to get our, go hell for leather with this.
And was I'm often a fan of speed in many situations, but was the cause for speed, was it a financial motivation? Was it just an energetic motivation?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
Bit of both, yeah, because there's a lot of investment that went into the new site. You haven't been, obviously, but Ben's been, and like the standard is...
It looks really nice. Yeah.
It's done to a very high specification, and it's like, I took out loans for that, business loans to do that. And it's just like, cool, right, that's now on my books that I now need to cover. The rent, tripled.
Yeah.
We didn't have business rates before. Now got business rates, which is, all those expenses started adding up. And it's like, right, okay, we can't really go slowly at this point.
Yeah,
and also because we've got more team members as well, again, in regards to like your expenditure, it's like, right, I now also need to pay these members of staff. So it's like, okay, we need to go quite quickly now.
Yeah. Sounds like a very stressful period.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of, did you anticipate it being that stressful? Because being a business owner is stressful, but did you anticipate that level of stress?
No, I didn't. And also struggled to get rid of the other premises.
Oh, okay. So you still had the same. Yeah.
So like we had some people that were interested with it, and I ended up having to keep that for another, how long was it? So I had a 5-year lease on it, and we got out off. We moved into the new site 4 years into it. So there's like a year left, and it was actually very hard to get someone to take on a year.
Yeah.
Unless they were going to go for a new lease on it. And it ended up taking about 7-8 months to get that. So I was paying rent
on an empty space.
At the same time. So, and paying the bloody service charges on like electricity and gas and this, that, and the other. It's just like, it was just another thing. And then when you move out of space as well, you get a dilapidations report of, right, as you move out, this building needs to be returned to like its original condition. And my landlord is a really nice guy. Well, my ex-landlord, he is a nice guy. There was maybe a little bit of miscommunication on this, but he served me. He sent a surveyor around to the building. He had someone go up on the roof. He went to town on the building, and then he sent me an email. I got an email from this surveyor for £38,000 worth of dilapidations on this building.
Wow.
And I'm like, you fucking kidding me, right? And it's like, he goes, oh, I'm not expecting you to pay all that. It's like, what part of this document you just served me for £38,000 do you not want £38,000? We did end up reaching a good conclusion from it, but it was just another stress at the time when you're trying to get rid of this building and you think someone did take it on. And it's like, right, I'm now getting rid of it. Now you're literally trying to scream for that. So it's like, that was very stressful.
Yeah. So while you had all of that going on in the new location, which was sound like a massive stress load, you then have this on the other side. How did you personally manage that stress and load? So looking after yourself, did you have any strategies? Was it just a process of working through?
Bit of both. So like I had a garage, I still do have a garage gym, and I still, I think training's still massively important when you're dealing with stress. I've never ever had long periods of time where I don't train for like the last, probably since I was like 20 years old. Like if I go on holiday, I will have some holidays where I don't train, but sometimes I do. But I've never had like a month where I've not trained. I've probably not had more than a fortnight where I've not trained in like more than 15 years. So that's normally a big thing for me, is like when I wake up in the morning, it was handy having it in the garage, because like I'd get up, I'd go in the garage, I'd try and set myself up for the day and whatever's coming my way. And it generally was kind of like a bit of a pep talk as to what am I walking into today. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to train first, and that might help me deal with it a bit better. Yeah.
So did you actually plan out the day that you were heading into?
To be honest with you, there's just fires. I'm walking in. I might be getting messages whilst I'm training from my right-hand man, JT, who's like messaging me stuff. It's like, cool, well, at least I've got a bit of an idea as to what I'm walking into today.
Yeah, I gotcha. So it was just like a bit of a cluster.
Yeah.
And
very much so.
But again, it's much better now, in a much better position.
It's much better.
Yeah, awesome. I think it's just good to mention that, because it's obviously we're talking about all of the challenges there. We're kind of taking you back to it, right? And so let's go back to the staff situation. So you moved in, big team, service isn't going well. And then what happened with that team?
So towards like the summer of 23, I'll put it simply, most of them jumped off the bus.
Yeah.
So I think there was about 5 or 6 people left in a very short period of time.
So you had a team of 8, and within, what was the time frame of the window?
So the first one started like August, and then the kind of like last person that left was the end of December. So there was even a replacement person who only lasted a month.
Wow.
So just like following on from that though, like it was very much a case of that they weren't being led very well by me, and they didn't believe in the vision that I had for it, and and where they were working was not serving them how they wanted it to be served in the vision that it was sold to them.
Yeah.
And I, at the time, like going through it all, when you're just kind of trying to get through the forest fire, is I don't really know how to solve this, because it was getting so far gone. It's just like, I don't really know what the answer is. And you don't even really contemplate, like getting rid of people or anything like that. It's just like, no, we'll kind of figure this out. But what ended up happening was like quite a few people ended up leaving in a very short space of time. And
was that staff or members or both, or just staff?
Bit of both, actually. Yeah, a bit of both. So,
because I was going to say that if 5 or 6 people left in a small amount of time, and then the service was already having some issues because of the speed, like their on-ramp or their onboarding process of staff wasn't as good. How did that affect the service? Did that make it worse, better?
So, what ended up happening was people left, and me and my head coach, well, my right-hand man, JT, who's been with me since we opened the first facility. And we had been off the floor when we opened, and a lot of people had been coached by me and him, and now they weren't. And when all that happened, we ended up having to go back into the weeds. So like it actually forced us to go back into something that we're pretty good at, actually. And it's like kind of coaching is my playground. Like I love doing it, but I'm now the business owner. So like when I moved in, it's like I need to be the business owner. So I stepped back. JT also, I made him step back, and then we didn't lead this team very well. So when they all left, like we had some meetings about how we actually I actually had a meeting where it's like kind of like I nearly said, look, is anyone else going? Like there was a couple more that did end up going, but they didn't own up to it there and then. But it's just like it forced us into a situation where the only way we're going to get out of this is we need to go back. We are now forced to go back into the weeds. So me and JT went back into the weeds. I was coaching from the end of November all the way up to about April. I was doing it every evening. And there's a lot of members who I hadn't seen before who now know who I am and now being coached by me. And my relationships with those people were growing. Like the first time there was someone in particular who saw me for the first time, they were going to be coached by me. They're like, fuck's sake, type thing. It's like, it's now my job to actually show some leadership because I haven't shown it to these people. So it's like, now we're going to put this right. So JT went and coached the mornings and he led that team that run in the mornings. I then did the evenings because it just worked better for me because in the mornings I could do sales calls and then actually I could still do what I needed to do, but I'm now going to have to do like 12-hour days in order to sort this out. And it was a hard lesson to learn because actually doing 12-hour days every single day was quite hard work. But that was what was required to turn it around. So like from kind of like January, our metrics are now telling us everything about what was going wrong. So like, I gave you that sort of stat about like conversion rate when we had 52 people come in. Like now, our average, we average between like 20 and 25 people that come in on a trial, and we convert about 60% of them.
Nice.
And like, before that, on average, it was below 40.
Yeah.
And I thought that was good.
Yeah.
At the time. But it's around 60 now. And it's like, that's saying something. Retention it's been kind of like, because we've made some changes to like things like paid in full, where it was just too discounted. There are people that have not renewed because of that. So retention is kind of around the same. It's still there's definitely room for improvement with that. But just some like straightforward things like people are not giving us feedback that this is crap. You know what I mean?
There was two things that I wanted to go back and ask. So when you moved from location 1 to location 2, you were on the gym floor beforehand, both you and so JT?
JT, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then you weren't. So that sounds like that was obviously a factor of service as well.
Yeah.
What was at that time anyway, like let's say like the onboarding process for people to coach with you also going off the gym floor? Because if you were still on the gym floor, you could be very much there and helping people, which sounds like what you did.
Yeah.
But to go straight off the gym floor, new coaches in, was there a manual or playbook or anything that...
There was structure. So like they weren't just thrown in at deep, like the very first hires that I made, they were thrown in at deep end, big mistake. But there was structure. It's like they were integrated over probably like an 8 to 12 week period. And some people weren't even coaching on the floor for probably well over 3 months. A couple of people that I can think of weren't coaching for at least 12 weeks on the floor. So there was structure to it. I think it was more, I think some of the kind of like the bigger issues around that were actually the reviewing of what is going on and like the greater accountability of what is being delivered. So like I had a head coach at the time who's no longer with us, who was watching the sessions, and like it was his job to like make set the standards and ensure accountability on like that the service is being delivered how it needs to be delivered, and it just wasn't.
Yeah. So you had,
in the grand scheme of things,
so you had a quality control system in place, but it just wasn't delivering what needed to happen.
No, and it was it was just something. It was very hard to pinpoint what the actual problem were because I was putting things in place for others to address it, but it wasn't getting addressed. So then I'm having to go back in to sort of like, right, what's going on here?
And then the second thing that you said was that there was members that were getting to know you for the first time.
Yeah.
So was there a point where maybe, although you're working a lot, you were almost distant from the community?
So before I went back on the floor, some people know who I am, some people don't. And I was very bad at not making my face be known to people. I was just like, I was upstairs a lot and I wasn't showing my face. I wasn't like just walking around on the gym floor, this, that, and the other. And that definitely does play a big role.
Yeah.
Because ultimately they're coming to, my facility. Actually, they're here for the team. They're also here for me. And it's like, if you don't know who I am, it's not, I don't need to know everything about me, but you need to know that I'm the owner and like I give a shit about this place and I want people to succeed. That was a big mistake that I made.
It's also, when it comes to the community, like you and probably the right-hand coach will be the heart of the community.
Yeah.
And it will kind of revolve around those two key people. So when you're not visible, there's a key part of the community that isn't there. And that's a massive sticking point for some with that community element. So, but obviously you were busy in other elements. It's not like you were hiding away. It was like you were just working.
I'm not sitting in my broom cupboard.
Yeah. And so with those members that left between, it was August to December.
Yeah.
So they left, and then you had to step in and coach and rebuild. So if you could go back in time, and it's always hindsight, right?
Love hindsight.
If you could go back in time and look at that process from moving into the gym, building the team up quickly, and it kind of fallen apart, basically. What steps would you take that would be different to what you did then?
So I think maybe like actually just seeking out some really good advice first would have been a really good shout.
So did you not seek out any advice? Did you do it off your the knowledge you had at that time?
A bit, yeah. So like, I think if someone had like looked at the economics of what I was trying to put together, they would have found some issues with it, which I found out further along the road. If someone had looked at, like kind of retention rates and like trial to conversion rates, they would have said, I would probably be opening another facility based on those numbers. So I think that probably would have been a big thing, is if I'd actually sought out some, industry standard advice before doing so, I might have got humbled, and it might have helped massively in regards to like how I move forward.
So you've done mentorships before in the past, various mentorships. Would that have, and there's a time to learn and be mentored, there's a time to implement. Would that point of the business being a good time to have some structured eyeballs on the business, you think?
Yes, like I think you also kind of have you're a little bit of a dreamer as well. So it's just like, oh, this facility looks fantastic. And there's also a little bit of, I'll make this work no matter what, regardless. So there's a bit of that, but there does need to be a bit of scrutiny into, right, what business do you actually have in this smaller location? And is it actually really, really good before you then bring it to a location which is 3 times the size? Will that stand up here?
And so when you decided to move into the second location, because finding the venue is really hard.
Yeah.
And so typically what happens is people find a location, they pounce and they move. Was that what you did?
Quite a long process actually, because we just come out of COVID, and this our landlord is actually the council. So this building became available, and it did take quite a while because there's like things like change of use and all that really fancy stuff, which I just have no part of. But it did take a while to actually get that through. So we kind of saw that like probably back end of 21.
Okay, so you knew it was coming. It wasn't.
It was coming, yeah.
So the reason I asked that is that you said that was the business you initially had the business that maybe you thought you had, in terms of like it wasn't maybe hitting a benchmark that maybe it needed to be beforehand? Or
so like I'll just look at like one of the key metrics from like trial to conversion. Like I thought back then that 40% was quite good. And it's like, it's not. Yeah. It's really not.
What
like,
the minimum should be, do you think?
Yeah, like I think again, it's all very, we were talking about this earlier, like it's very subjective on how many people are actually coming through the door.
Yeah, let's go into it now, because I think we were talking about this, and I thought it was actually a very good point, is that I think that people in the industry hide behind their conversion rates without
or a
knowing
percentage.
what the specific number may be. So,
Yeah.
some people might say, I convert 90% front end to back end. You're like, wow, 90%. But actually, it was 3 people or 4 people, or, 5 people or something like that. So it is 90%. But 90% of what? And I was saying that, some people come to FMA and they've never ran ads before, and they say, oh, our sales conversion rate is 60%. Yeah, but 60% of 5, like it's not that great. Like you're making 3 sales a month. Like it's not, so it really depends on what it is. Or, let's say you have a really great front end conversion rate. Maybe your pricing is too cheap, or your retention rate is too good. Maybe your pricing is too low potentially. So they're indicators, but they're not definers.
I always look at data with a critical thought process. It's like I see a number. It's like, but let's strip that number apart. That's always my process. It's like some people just hear a number and go, that's great. It's like I've always got a follow-up question. It's like, right, so how many is that? And how often do you do that? And how many times have you done that? It's great that you're saying that, your retention's your churn is 1%. How many months have you done that for? And how many people are you actually serving? If you're only serving 20 people, I expect you to probably keep 99% of 20 people. So I always strip numbers apart because, as I say, I think some people do like to just as you say, use really high numbers and overinflate their own ego with what's going on. But when you strip it apart, it's actually not that impressive. The number sounds great, but when you really strip it apart, it's not that. It sounds great, but it's not.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting. I think it's very important to be self-aware, and I think that's something that is a skill set I would say you actually have, is being very self-aware about things that have gone wrong. And we talk about the leadership situation where there's so many people that I've heard go, you just can't get the right staff, and it's like, well, have you had a look at how you're being? And
that's the thing.
And so far you're like, I didn't give them enough information or enough training to be able to be as good as they had. So we kind of went over, if you could go back, what would you do differently? How is it now? So let's say you get a new staff member, or the last staff member that came through the door. What's different to what was before?
So I don't necessarily think it's the onboarding process as such. I think if I looked at that before, maybe it was kind of a little bit generic, and it's like we want all these box ticks. But when someone comes through the door now, some people will have certain skills that don't, it's focusing more on what they do need as opposed to I want all these boxes ticked. Like, this person's actually really quite good at this, so do we really need to spend loads of time on that right now? Probably not. So it's like, if it's actual getting time on the gym floor, or it's having conversations with people, that's what we need to focus on. We don't need to necessarily focus on how to coach a squat right now. You actually need to focus on, you're a really good person because we've hired you, because we know you've got the personality traits, and you're the right type of person that we want. But actually, we need to see more of that first before we even kind of go into this. So it's much more person-centric.
I was about to say, it sounds a bit more bespoke rather than they go through a rigid system. It's like, here's your strengths that we can clearly see. Yeah. This is what needs work on, and we're going to work around you. And you can do that in a small business, right? Yeah. Because you're not, like Amazon, who have thousands of employees that all go through the same process. Yeah. It's a person-to-person business, and you can treat them more in a more human way.
Yeah. So some of... we've got 3 members of the team that are really quite green. So we took on...
you said that twice, really quite green.
Yeah. So we've got 3 members of staff. 2 of them have started from fresh. So Sam came through our PT Academy. We used to run a level 3 PT Academy. Whilst all that was going on, we had to deliver that as well. So yeah, we had a PT Academy, which is really good for that. So Sam, we saw over 10 weeks. And we knew, from a person perspective, he was just going to be brilliant for this. But he hadn't got the experience of coaching. And he's a very good academic, and he was just an exceptional student. But it's right, we need to get him kind of time and build his confidence with being able to do this and actually, coach. So we took a long time with him. Jordan, who's come in recently, he only qualified, I think, the back end of last year. Again, it's actually just experience and sets and reps. They're good people. They give a shit. They're great team members. They're people that you want on your side. It's purely just, we need to get sets and reps, and we need to do that religiously. And it might sound a bit too boring, but like that's how it needs to be.
Yeah. And so with green, so you got green is like the great attitude, or what?
Green is just like someone who isn't like just not experienced.
Okay.
Just like someone,
green is new. So I was thinking like a traffic light system, but green is I'm brand new. Yeah.
They're just new. They don't have any experience. Like when Jess came on board with us, she did have some experience. So it's like, okay, cool. Well, let's see what you can do, and then we can build on it from there. But yeah, Sam and Jordan, who've come in, they had no coaching experience. So it's like we need to start very differently with them. Whereas with Jess, we can start, a little bit further ahead.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have less team members now than you did, but you're delivering a better service.
100%. Like all the metrics are saying that. The feedback that we get is telling us that.
And just, this might seem like an obvious question to some, or obvious answer. What are those metrics that you're looking at to make sure that your service is moving in the right direction?
So really retention, conversion.
Or front end to back end?
Front end to back end.
And then retention, how many people are leaving every month?
Retention and just general feedback.
Because you've mentioned earlier, like people weren't saying weren't giving feedback. Do you have a process in place to get feedback now?
Yeah, so like during like the first kind of like 6 to 12 months, they will get an email from us asking for feedback. And actually a lot of them do fill it in. We do get quite a good, and then we'll actually go through it in a team meeting.
Nice.
Good or bad, we'll go through it in a team meeting, and we'll strip it apart. But yeah, there is a process for them to give feedback. But a lot of times, just having conversations with people. Like people will just say, "Joe, I'm loving this right now. Like I love being coached by so and so because they bring this. I love this person because they're, we hearing that. Obviously, there'll always be people that are going to be silently unhappy about something.
Yeah,
and it's very hard to find out who those people are. But the people that are happy, they will tell you. And actually, that's kind of a really good thing, based on the fact that people before would tell us that it's not very good, what they're getting isn't very good.
Yeah, but it's definitely so important to get the critical information as well, because it's nice to sit. I think it's important to celebrate the wins as well. And I think even in meetings, and we have this FMA, like weekly, daily, whenever we get a win, we share it in the big group chat. We tag whoever's responsible for that win, and we celebrate that, and then we'll talk about it in meetings and go into that, because it's so important to have the team see the work that you're doing 100%. And like see them have the wins. But then it's equally as important to seek that critical feedback as well. And I think a nice way, I would always frame it in a survey, like if you had to give us a negative piece of feedback or had to be critical, what would it be? Because like some people may not be, and they're happy, but it's like, well, if I had to, the showers could be a bit cleaner, or what I mean, like, but it's not a biggie, but it's like if it had to.
So we used to sometimes send out like a survey, like like every 6 months or something like that. But I think there's some pros and cons to it from a perspective of that. I don't like things being anonymous. So like if you put in an anonymous piece of feedback, that is of no use to me whatsoever. Because like I'll probably have follow-up questions, and if I can't find the person to have that conversation with, I pretty much disregard it, because it's like, how can I glean anything from this?
Yeah.
So it's like, we try and create an environment where people can just talk to us, and it's like, if you want to leave an anonymous piece of feedback, then I'm probably not going to deal with it, because I'm probably going to have questions where it's been so vague what's been put anonymously that what am I supposed to do with that? And
so with that, if you were to get a piece of feedback from a member, would you call them, email them?
100%.
And you'd just be like, hey, like, thanks for the feedback. Was there anything in particular, or how would you approach that conversation?
Yeah.
Because also, like, it's kind of a complaint in a way. So like, is there anything you do it's not a rescue because you're asking for feedback, but is there anything you do to make sure everything's all good?
A lot of time it'll be a phone call.
Yeah.
If something's gone on, like sometimes there might be like an odd drama where, I don't know, maybe there's been a communication with a member where it's been taken, I don't know, like in the wrong way or in the wrong context, and they've been dissatisfied with it. It's just a phone call. So it's like, look, earlier you didn't seem quite right, or you didn't seem quite happy about something. So like, would you like to just like explain like kind of what's happened and how you feel about it, and then we'll just have a conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely don't like kind of ignore things. But as I say, I do have a big issue with just anonymous feedback, because it creates more problems and more questions than it does actually solve anything.
And just to go finally to kind of tee off with staff, there's something you said, I think it was at one of our mastermind events actually, how you advertise for staff is much different to how you used to, because beforehand it was let's get staff, and it was kind of like we need staff like really badly, but you now have more of a filtration system, I would say, but it's quite unique and creative. So run me through that.
Ultimately, we're looking for people that are interesting, because you do have to sift through quite a lot of rubbish when you're advertising in certain areas, like things like Indeed and Facebook. So like I think just on like the job ad, I think just being really what's the word, just being yourself. So it's just like, this is what I'm looking for, and if you and this is what I'm not looking for. And then at the bottom, and I say, I wish this was my idea, but it wasn't. So I literally just put at the end of like the job ad, it's like, because you get people on Indeed who they might be on job seekers, and they have to look like they're applying for something. So they're just like, hey, I'll just apply, but they don't send this. They send you like this CV that they've written 15 years ago, and they're just doing it to tick a box.
Yeah.
So put on the job ad, if you wish to be considered a serious candidate. If you don't wish to be considered a serious candidate for this position, just send us your CV. However, if you do want to be considered a serious candidate, send us something alongside your CV, brackets, something like a video or a cover note. We like video. So like just a little, kind of like a bit of a wink, send us a video, because that's probably going to have a bit more of an impact. And then I'll put at the bottom, PS, we also like cake. So we had some videos come in the last time when we took Jordan on, funny enough, and not a single person put some cake in it, or just any sort of reference to the cake. And it's just like, you're telling me something here that you're not actually. I'm giving you an opportunity to maybe show a little bit of personality, and it doesn't need to be like in a super serious way. I'm clearly telling you in this job ad that like this is a serious position, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. So I'm looking for someone that's going to be like that. And when I took, so Jordan did his video, there wasn't the cake in it, but we had a really good conversation. Like I was very impressed with the video that I saw. But when he was invited to a face-to-face interview, he went to Asda and came in with cake. This like bumblebee cake. That's like, you're my man.
Because also the branding of the gym is yellow and black.
I don't know whether that was intentional, but we'll go with it.
Yeah.
But we'll go with it.
Yeah.
He'll take the credit for that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's you're giving people opportunity to stand out, but again, also just not accepting any old CV, right? You want people to show a bit of personality and show that they care, because it is a business of care and caring of people at the end of the day. So yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, just like show that you haven't missed an opportunity here. And like I thought Jordan may have missed an opportunity, but then he came to the interview. He said, "I've just brought you something before we get started." And he put it on the desk. It's like, oh, okay, I think it's going to go quite well.
Yeah, yeah. And so with the new gym, I mentioned the brand in there being yellow and black. So you did a complete rebrand. And like the gym looked really, really nice. How did you go about the rebrand? Did you do it yourself? Did you get help?
I'm useless to that stuff. So like, my partner Holly is still waiting for me to put like a TV bracket up on the wall. So like, I'm not that person. When it comes to like, decoration stuff like that, I'm just not that guy. So when it comes to a joke, like me and JT initially when we looked at the new site, we're like, I tell you what, maybe we will just do it ourselves. And then so what we decided, it's like, no, I'm just gonna. There won't be like continuity across. Like there might be some bits which look all right, and then the rest of it might just look like shit. So it's just like I need professional help with this. So I actually took on a what they call, they're like a commercial interior design company. So they've done things like like opticians, hair salons. It's just all done in a commercial setting.
And so they designed just like the decoration of the gym.
They designed the gym.
Did they do a rebrand as well? The logo.
So we came up with that. So like it's quite funny. In the very first site, our colours were like I can't remember the colour of it now, but it's like a green, and it was relative to like the colour of the beam in the actual facility. And unfortunately, this time around, we had to follow a very similar principle. So like the beams in this new building are yellow. And Will, the interior design guy, said to me, he goes, how do you feel about yellow? And I'm like, why? He goes, well, these millions of beams that are these support beams that are in the actual gym, they're yellow. And it's going to be very hard to do something different and include yellow. And he goes, but yellow is the color of friendliness and this, that, and the other. And he kind of sold it to me that, yellow might be the way to go. So we went with that. But the actual name, it was actually my partner Holly that came up with the name. So we had brainstormed amongst the team a name that we wanted, because I just wanted to remove my name from it. I wanted to create kind of a brand, which there's arguments to or for whether you need to do that. But yeah, we stumbled across the word Aventus, and Holly stumbled across it, and it has loads of different meanings. It's like a Latin word, but one of them that really resonated was it means to succeed. So when it comes to a gym, and it just kind of all fed into each other really nicely. So it means to succeed. Most people that go to the gym don't succeed. So we want to be known as the place where you can go to a gym and succeed. So we used Aventus. We used 22 because it was the year. There was nothing else behind that other than the year. And then in our sort of branding, we use the E, and it's kind of like pointed or forward facing. And that's basically to represent we are a forward thinking company. And the E itself, coincidentally, in maths, E is the mathematical symbol to belong to something.
Oh, okay.
So we emphasize the E because, again, it leads in really nicely with going to a gym where you succeed. It's a place where you feel like you belong. And those two things, alongside inspire, basically form our core values now.
So a lot of thought went into the rebrand.
Yeah. I say, the yellow is a colour of friendliness, although it was kind of a bit more dictated by the colour of the building. But yeah, we put a lot of thought into that, and we probably don't communicate that enough in regards to some of the messaging that we're putting behind the actual brand name.
And how much did you said you got loans, how much did you invest into the gym?
It was at least £200,000.
Okay, so you went really all in on the gym because it looked really, really nice, like top of the range equipment.
Yeah.
And was it that it just cost that much, or you decided I want to make this special?
Bit of both. So I feel like you kind of, if you're going into that sort of facility, if it's going to be to the same standard as before, what's the point? So I wanted it to be kind of higher end. I wanted it to be a bit more premium. I wanted people to walk through the door and go, wow, this is quite something. And I believe it does that, and it requires a level of investment to do that. I mean, it was interesting. I went to a seminar with a guy called Miles from Black Box, and he was just sort of saying about how the cost of gym equipment since COVID, I think it's got 60% or something like that. So when it comes to equipment, that is the cost of equipment now. And that is what it is. But the actual, we had change rooms put in, they're all been done to a really good specification. Do you need showers? Questionable, I would say.
And you have showers and changing rooms?
We have these unisex ones. So we have 3. They're floor to ceiling ones. Yeah. They do get used in the mornings, and I don't think it's a deal breaker for people though. If you know what I mean?
I think it depends on the location. Are you a commuter type gym?
Yeah, so we're not.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're in quite a quiet location. Whereas if you're in a place where people go from there to work, you probably do need that. But I always feel that not a deal breaker, but some people like to have it even though they don't use it.
Yeah, it's a bit like that person who goes, I still want to be a member at a commercial gym because it's got the swimming pool and the sauna that I don't use.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a little bit you pay for Netflix for all the thousands of things you don't actually watch, but you like the fact that you have it. And I think that's kind of similar to a changing room in a way.
Yeah, 100%.
And so with the investment into the gym, we'll kind of move into the finance of the business and the journey that you've been there. So was it fully financed through loans, or was it also through the memberships and the pay in fulls, or was that a
bit of both?
Okay, so how much did you get it from the bank? Where did you get the loan
I got from the bank.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah,
I got business. I got 2 business loans through the bank.
Nice.
I also. When COVID hit, there was bounce back loans, which is, I took all I could on the bounce back loan because it's the interest rate. You're never going to get money like that again.
Yeah.
So I took a bounce back loan, did take some paid in fulls to cover the cost of it. But as with anything, costs end up spiraling. You kind of budget a certain amount and it's actually we haven't thought about this. And it kind of escalates. And then like we did need to raise some more funds. So we did like kind of like a paid in full offer around Black Friday.
Yeah.
Where we got some, like we created like some 2-year memberships, which were sort of quite heavily discounted, but obviously it was still quite a large amount to receive at a time. So I think we made like somewhere between like 35 and 40 grand in paid in fulls from that.
And paid in fulls can be good depending on the context that you are offering out the pay in full membership and the position that you were in. But it can be maybe a little bit like a drug in a sense where you can get hooked and it can really take you through a dangerous cycle. Yeah. And I think if it's okay to talk about, your business went through this experience of relying on pay in fulls to, it'd be interesting to hear from you.
So when like in the old facility, we were doing paid in full. However, it was actually kind of like, in some regards, okay, because like that the old gym was very profitable. It was like nearly at a 33% third profit margin on that. So it's like it's okay to do this because it's not really. And we are robbing ourselves a little bit further down the road if it's discounted, which it was. Yeah. But it's not really affecting anything. If the member feels like, I just like to pay things up front. I don't like having monthly kind of.
And what was the revenue back then as well?
So like it was about, I think turnover was about 30 grand.
Yeah.
There. So yeah, like paid in fulls weren't a big deal then. I did notice a trend where nearly like of our conversions, 50% of people were going on to paid in full, and then that was telling me that's too cheap. If 50% of people are prepared to pay like 2 grand, as opposed to it's like £209, I think.
So you were kind of always selling a pay in full membership.
It was always an option.
So it wasn't like a one-time, maybe Black Friday offer where you could limit the amount. It was an ongoing basis where a huge portion of those members were paying money 1 month and being with you for a year and never paying you for potentially another 12 months.
Yeah.
And then was the money that was coming in wasn't being allocated at all? Or?
So what happened, if I kind of like stripped it apart, was when we moved into a new facility, we had, if I was to summarize it and I'll reverse engineer it from there, is that I didn't have a close enough eye on expenditure. I was kind of, if I was being really critical, I was being a bit reckless actually, because I've got 2 May team members, because that's how I wanted it to go. Now the outgoings have got up quite substantially in regards to like the rent. That went up 3 times. So now paying business rates, which we didn't have to pay before. So expenditure had gone up quite exponentially. And as I say, if I had some advice at the time, it might have really helped. But I'm like, we had some cash in the bank from like it's paid in full. So it's like spending become quite, not frivolous, but it's like I wasn't paying close enough attention to it. So like all these paid in fulls keep coming in, but fundamentally our expenses were way too high. So it's like it was getting to a point where shit, this money is running out in regards to, because some months when you like, I think we'd get some months where we get like 20 grand in paid in full, and if you're not wiping your own face or like breaking even and paying yourself and creating profit, then you went in a very dangerous, stressful experience. So what ended up happening was, before I knew it, I didn't even realize it until it hit me like square in the face, was that our reliance on like breaking even and being profitable was dependent on making a certain amount of money in paid in full.
Yeah, so if you didn't make the pay in full, your business is now losing money.
Yeah.
And I think something you said earlier there is that if your business is profitable from monthly recurring revenue, you're in a position where you can take a paid in full and there could be some sort of benefit there potentially.
Yeah.
But if you are not profitable on a monthly recurring basis and then you take a pay in full, the next month you're in the same situation.
You're hustling.
And then you're in the same situation the month again and again and again. Yep. So every single month becomes, as you said, hustle mode.
Yeah. It's like you go into the month going, right, like I think it was at a point where I need to get 10 grand in paid in full this month.
And so
through any means necessary.
And do you think potentially you would then go into the people that were paying monthly and offer them pay, or?
So some would just ask if they could, which we allowed. But we were kind of like, because we had such a large number on it, it's like, right, well, we're going to have to make sure they renew on that, because ultimately we need the money.
Yeah.
Like
you come to the negotiation position of weakness.
Yeah.
You might even, well, I've heard other people do this, might not be you, but they actually discount even further again from someone.
No, so I didn't do that. But it's from right, if I need 10 grand in paid in full, and there's, I don't know, 5-6 members that are coming up for renewal, I'm going to kind of need a renewal from them if just to make my life easier. If not, I'm going to have to go through trialists that convert to see if they want to pay in full. But just having that, I need to get this, is very stressful. It's not a cool way of running finances in a business.
It's very stressful, but also, there's no security in terms of the finances. And if you don't have that money coming in, but the more you do it, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's not like, because
you say the word drug like it is, because what you end up having to do, you have to try and wean yourself off it over a long period of time. And that's kind of where we're at now. We're kind of in a very good space with it now.
What was the ratio before you started weaning yourself off?
We were at 45% of our members were on paid in full.
Wow. So so every single month you were having to replicate 45% of the monthly revenue to.
Yeah, it was at least It was at least £10,000. It might have even been more in certain months to do that.
So what were the steps of one, recognizing that this is a problem, which might have been quite obvious, but then actually because getting out of these situations, and we've had other clients that have been in this situation, it's a baby step process. It's not, there's no quick fix to this solution, because it's the quick fixes that got you there in the first place.
Exactly.
You have to take small steps every single month to slowly get yourself back there. But once you do that work, life's much better.
Much better.
What were those steps that you had to take?
So you do have to, again, dial into your expenses, right? So we had 2 May team members. When a load of them walked out, none of them really got replaced. It's brought expenditure down. So the demand for paid in full and more money, like obviously just our break-even cost, our expenses have gone down. I sort of dialed in on some of our loans. So I sort of said, right, can we get some sort of payment breaks on these loans just to buy us some time to try and help out, which I got. The bigger loan gave us like a 2-3 month 50% kind of cut on it. So it's like that helped.
And that process was just going to them and asking for a payment
to say,
break.
look, I need a payment break in order to, like, just going through a little bit of a rough time with things. It's like you have to kind of like, look, right, what do I not need? So now I know like how much everything is. I know what's coming out. I need to know what day it's coming out now. So it's like we don't need that, that's going. Don't need that, that's going. And you just realize there's so much shit on your expenses list you just don't need. And then you end up getting rid of all that. You sort of dial in on, right, can I just take some payment breaks from this, which might just loosen, give me a little bit of leeway. But I think it came from expenses went down. It was getting really dialed in on, right, how much does it cost to run this gym on a monthly basis on average? And then it was very much a case of we went back on the floor. I still made sure that I planned it in such a way in which I was coaching in the evenings. I was still doing the sales calls in the morning. We were still hitting, between 20 and 30 sales a month with me still coaching.
Because that's one thing you didn't cut is marketing.
100%. No, you can't do that. I'm screwed if we do that.
Yeah, because some people go, I need to cut things, and they go, I'm going to stop spending X amount a month on ads because that saves me this. But actually, there's no saving to be met. There's massive losses.
100%. Because unless you've got a really good organic strategy for leads coming in, it's not predictable that way. So it's like the quickest way to get yourself out of this mess is to spend a little bit of money, and like the return on investment from ad spend. It's going off a slight tangent. When I first opened the first gym, in fact, when I was a one-to-one personal trainer and did small group, I started with paid ads. I didn't actually start with
That's
organic.
So interesting. So like, did you train in a private space or?
So when I first started, I actually, I quit my job that I was in. I was a prison officer for like 9 years. I quit that job and I had 2 clients. I thought enough's enough and I need to just do this. So like, I'll find a way, I'll figure it out. So I started training people out in parks, and then I got I rented space at a rugby club gym. It was very much like spit and sawdust.
So you couldn't really walk the floor there either.
But I built up small group in like I was only working 3 days a week as well doing it. I got quite busy, but I did paid marketing then because I didn't have the footfall to do it. I kind of had some people that knew about Facebook ads, so I actually did it probably the other way around, and it is the quickest way to do it.
It just speeds up the process essentially. So like, Facebook ads is just momentum and speed, as in like it just puts rocket fuel onto what you're doing and elevates it.
But ages ago though, like I used to run one ad and I just used to turn it on and off for about 18 months because there's no other competition in the marketplace.
Yeah.
It was literally the same thing. I didn't change it at all. I was just like, when I need some clients, I just switch it on, it brings in some leads. But now obviously it's a very, very different ball game. But back then it was literally, I had a video of just this woman called Nick. She was just like deadlifting, quite an impressive weight. And you would probably advise not to like put stuff like that now, but it used to pop because like people resonated with her, and it's just like she just turned it on off. It's like whenever I needed it.
Back in the simple days. So you were cutting expenses, but not marketing, still making those 20 to 30. So you kind of went through and just went, what am I spending? What don't we need?
Yeah.
Well, I say surprisingly, obviously there were team members that weren't needed to run the service there as well.
So it was just dialing in on making sure that the team that we do have are fully in, because like we can't do with anyone else going. If you want to jump off the bus, please just do it now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, because I think we all deserve. If we're all going to move forward, we need you to declare where you're at.
And did you put that out to the people there? Yeah, and just
kind of like, look, if anyone else is going, I'll understand, but I'd rather you just tell me now.
Yeah,
like, because I'm not planning ahead, and then you're going to kind of just like throw that at me. All right, so just be really honest and transparent with me if you're not going to be here. And it's like kind of everyone sort of declared where they were at. It's like, right, cool. All we need to focus on now is delivering a very good service, making sure we're getting sales and making sure we're converting them and retaining as many people as possible, and literally stripped it back to the bare bones of what you actually need to do. We'd been getting too invested in loads of other crap that just isn't that important in the grand scheme of things. It's actually just making sure the service is really good, making sure we're getting enough sales, making sure we're converting as many. When we started focusing on that, like the back end of last year, we've got ourselves out of this mess.
Nice. And so the ratio is much lower now and you're still on that process to get there, but the business is now above, well, profitable every single month now.
Yes.
Yeah, nice. What are profit margins at the moment?
So they aren't where they were. They are going up each month. Like for a period of time, I wasn't taking a salary.
Since you moved into the new place, you weren't? Yeah.
Yeah, because of the nature of where we were at. So I am taking a salary now. Our profit margins are between like 5 and 10%, but they are like, when me and JT had a meeting the other day and we looked over the next 12 months, it's like we have a very different conversation in 12 months' time as to what that profit margin is. And
so what's good there is that you can now foresee where the business is going. So you can now see, and how have you managed to get yourself in a place where you can, you were in a storm and you managed to get yourself out of a storm and you're now still on the journey, but you can now see and forecast where it is you're going. Like, how is it you've managed to actually have that foresight in the business?
So we were speaking about.
Also, what's the revenue now in the business? Actually, I forgot
to ask
that.
Last month we took 48,000.
Nice.
So we were speaking about this in the coffee shop. It depends on the type of game you want to play when it comes to small group personal training. So like, you can either play the game of I want a large number of people paying a smaller amount of money, or I want a smaller number of people paying a larger amount of money. I started playing the first game.
It gets quite hard.
It gets very hard when your KPIs are not good enough. Like our members now, we have just over 200 members. And bearing in mind, I said to you, when we moved from site 1, we had 180. We went up to about 218 at one point. But obviously there's a lot that's gone on in that period of time. So during that first year, I had to action a price increase, which when people are not happy with the service, like it went down fucking terribly.
So you had to do that announcement of the price increase
at the same time.
Yeah.
So literally, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So like in September of last year, like we were undercharging 100%, even though the service wasn't quite where it needed to be. Economically, if we carried on doing what we were doing, like we'd be out of business, like straight up. So that happened. Then all the people started walking out at the same time, and then people were going like, "Is this gym going to shut down?" Like type thing. And I was like, "No, it's okay, it's fine. We'll deal with it." So we had to action a price increase then. But what we realised is that we actually want to play a much smaller game. So like we actually would rather have somewhere between like 200 and 250 members, 5 team members. We don't need any other team members to do fulfillment for that. But they're paying a lot more. And the demographic that we market to actually do require a lot more. So like we advertise a lot more to the over 50, over 60s. We've got about half a dozen people in their 80s that come to us.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So like that demographic of people as well, they typically have more time. They've done their working life. They have more disposable income. And actually they value quality of life a lot more. And they don't have like massive needs from us. Like they just want to be able to move better. They want to have a bit more energy on their walks. And it's like, you don't need like anything like mind blowing to help people do that. You just need to provide an environment where people feel like that they can make progress. They feel like they belong there. And that's it. So we target those older demographics now, and they are prepared to pay a bigger price for that level of service.
Yeah, they value their health way more than a younger person values their health.
They're like the conversations I have with people on the phone, they're like saying, my parent, I don't want to end up like my mum did, or I don't want to end up, like my sister has, or this, that, and the other. And you get all that on the phone, and like they just have such bigger, compelling reasons to get their health and fitness back on track. The conversation's a much easier conversation to have instead of someone who just I just want to be fit for Ibiza.
Yeah, the level of motivation is so small there in comparison to I don't want to end up like my mum did. That's worth so much more than being a bit trim for a holiday.
The older demographic of people, they are just a joy to have in the gym. Like,
great members, no ego as well.
There's no ego. Like they refer as well. If they're having a good time, we found that they are referring a lot more because they recognise that there's not places like this that accommodate for people like them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where we're at, and we now charge more for that.
That's why I also like this market, because not a lot of people, if you're listening right now, there's probably not a huge amount of people in your area that are marketing to the older people, because it's not cool to market. A lot of people, when they've have visualizations of their gym, it's full of like really young, super fit people already. But it's like, but those people are catered for. There's an abundance of services for those people that are already fit. The people that aren't fit and don't identify as a gym person, that's where the mass opportunity is, and that's where the gold mine is for so many people. So, and also I would say the impact that you're actually creating in terms of improving quality of life.
Honestly, like it's so much more rewarding working with these types of people. The people that we've got in their 80s, they value it so much, and it's making massive improvements in their lives. I was coaching last night, funny enough. I had to cover someone on leave, and there's a gentleman that came up to me who trains with he brought his wife along, and who trains with us, and he just says, my wife has just noticed such a difference in my general movement and like just how I am generally. And it's like, it's so cool to see that.
And how life-changing that is in terms of someone's quality of life, daily movement, energy is improved because of that. Yeah.
And taking it back to like kind of conversions. So back when they were like around 40%, we were having like 30-minute conversations with people to try and get them to come into a membership. Now it's like 5 minutes of that. 5 minutes. Yeah. It's like, cool. They say, yeah, I want to continue. You pitch them our membership prices now, and it's like, cool, I'll do that one.
And so it's gone to a point where it's effortless. Basically, they're walking themselves.
I won't say effortless. I won't take it for granted. But they are 5-minute conversations.
They're walking themselves in more than they were beforehand because of the improvements to the service and the team that you've made there. Let's talk about sales, because you've technically been with FMA twice. So when you first came in, we ran the marketing, you got leads, and you got some signups, but I think the conversion rate was lower than we'd like, about 15%. So we typically like to see between 20 to 40% conversion rate of signups. And we had a conversation, like, I haven't made the sales. And then I think you went away for a little bit.
I was blaming you.
Yeah. That's it. Marketing blame sales, blame marketing. It's
shit leads that you've given me.
It's a never-ending cycle. And then you came back and we had a conversation, and we were talking about the experience. And I'll let you tell the story.
Okay. So the first time around,
but also I would like to caveat that you you did say shit leads. These leads are bad.
Yeah.
These leads are shit. Yeah.
So that kind of links in. I won't go off too much on a tangent. But before that, when we were running Facebook ads, it was always put the price on the page. And funny enough, when people don't really understand what you do, people don't really sign up on a web page to pay. I can't remember exactly what it was, probably about a couple of £100 back then. But like people aren't going to pay because they don't really understand what you're doing. So when I first joined FMA, I was arguing everything. I was a right arsehole, to be honest. I was just like, I'm very skeptical about like this method of doing things. So like, it's like I want price on the page. I want them to know how much it is. I don't want to be wasting my time with people trying to have to sell this, that, and the other. And I think I kind of went into it with already preconceived ideas of how I wanted it, as opposed to, right, if I'm signing up with this, I need to be open to how they do it and trust the process with it. So the first time around, I definitely came into it with my preconceived idea of how I want this to go, as opposed to how it needs to go. So the leads came in. Like we had about 120 inquiries, I think, that came in. I can't remember the exact sales, but I think it wasn't particularly great. And like when I kind of like am doing a cost benefit analysis on like the investment versus what I've got out of it, the return on investment, sorry, I'm like, might as well just carry on what I'm doing type thing. And so we sort of like left it there, and I was kind of a bit like, no, I'm just not doing this. And I didn't even have a conversation with you. Like you kind of wanted to have a check-in conversation. I was just like, nah, do you know what? I'm not going to waste that time type thing. I will plow on this again. So then I walked away, and then it's that Henry Ford quote, isn't it? If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So I carried on getting exactly the same results, and it's just like, and then I start, I've seen more testimonials, and there's one that resonated with me at the time, and it's because I was opening a new gym, and was Dan Me. So Dan Me had actually, there was a testimonial of his where he'd opened a new facility. I was like, oh, okay, and I just kept seeing more and more. It's like, then I had this self-awareness, like, what am I not doing here? If all these success stories are just like sunshine and unicorns, what am I not doing? So then I got back in touch, and I said, look, let's have a call. And then we had a conversation, and then we just stripped it apart. We sort of went through the, how many leads did we get? How many sales did we make? What was the lead to sale rate, etc. And I think the lead to sale is about, let's just say for argument's sake, it was about 15%, which is low really for the grand scheme of things. And you just asked one question that sort of flipped it on its head. You just said, look, if we can get that to 30%, do you think this would be worth the investment long term? I was like, well, yeah, 100%. So then we identified that obviously my selling was the problem. It wasn't like the leads. So you'd really, I think at the time I'd only just like really dialed in on sales and realized that was a massive part of client success stories. If you were going to kind of probably have longer term successes helping people out with sales. So I think you'd only just brought it.
Yeah. And so in fairness to you, so it was a sales issue, but we had, within the time of you being there and then leaving temporarily, we had then massively updated the sales training. Yeah. We have Luke, who now does sales coaching, will speak with people one-on-one, do sales coaching, and it's revolutionized the results for everyone because everyone's conversion rates have gone up, including yours. So I think we did double the conversion rate to 30. Yeah,
so you basically just said, look, let's get you back in, and let's get you booked in for the very first, like the sales training down at HQ, and I brought JT with me, and we did that. We were there within like 2 or 3 weeks. As soon as we started doing that, things started to change, and it's just like, okay, cool, right. I'm now the problem. I was the problem,
and that's it. Like, and also at the office, we do in-person sales training once a month where we get people down. And I think was it at that event you realised?
So interestingly, I tell you, when we first, so I signed up with a mentor like ages ago. One of the very first ones I did, and he was in Australia, and he had over 20 gyms, and then COVID just ruined him. But I kind of learned a similar sales process to what I do now, and it was kind of based around the same sort of principles. But then I sort of like when COVID hit, I then just changed it, even though it was actually working. And it went to we'll put the price on the page, and we're going to have a very short conversation. We're going to assume they want to sign up because they know everything. It didn't work very well. So then it's like going back to kind of what did work, but on a higher level. So when we did the sales training, conversion rates started going up. We started getting better at selling, and then the rest is history from there.
Yeah, and then 20 to 30 signups every single month from the leads, and then we've got a 60% now conversion rate of those people going into back end, and the revenue's grown and the profit's getting bigger every single month. And I attribute a massive element of the success you've had is to the transformation in the sales process that you've had, because beforehand you said you had the price on the page, and if you had the price on the page, one, you'll get a lack of opt-ins because people don't understand what it is, and they look at that price and they associate it with their past experiences.
100%.
But also the few people that you do get onto a page, if you speak to them, sign them up, you haven't sold them. I would just say you're a glorified self-checkout. Because they're buying from you. Now that is easier, but again, to get that volume that you need is going to be quite difficult.
That'll be price dependent on it. Like, I think if it was a very low price, maybe like somewhere between 100 and 150 quid, maybe you might get some takers for that.
Yeah, if it was a low barrier offer, or a pure gym, for instance, they do it all through the website, right? Because it's a tenner, 20 quid, or whatever the offer is they have on their site. But when you're dealing in small group personal training,
I can't put 397 for a 6-week program on a website and expect people to sign up to it without having any understanding of how we're going to solve their problem.
Yeah, exactly. Understanding their problem and what they're going through right now. Because when you then speak to that person that says, I don't want to end up like my mum did, well, all of a sudden that's a very
compelling reason to want to do something.
That's a very, very big problem that needs solving. But then if they look at a page with a price on, they're not thinking that, because they need the conversation to get them to realize what's going on.
Exactly that. So they kind of they need that person to air it.
Yeah, it's exactly, and it had the realization of how important this is going to be. So the sales process has been what would you say to anyone else that has hesitancy around sales? They think, I don't like sales. I don't like being on the phone. I don't like dialing the phone or making loads of calls.
So ultimately, I think if you're the business owner, you have to do sales, and it's the lifeblood of your success ultimately as a gym. I quite like it. It's something that I do get a bit of a buzz from when I know I'm gonna help someone change their life. If I've had to also overcome some hurdles in order to get them to realize that this is a good solution for them, I also get a massive kick out of that as well, because I've done it in a really kind of good way. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it doesn't always go how you want it, even though it's this is exactly what you need. You've said you've got the money for it, but there's still something, you still can't quite extract what that is from them. And most of the time it's fear. A lot of time, but they're never going to tell you, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But you can only kind of judge it a little bit as you're going through it and sort of pick up on some signs of, I've never felt comfortable in the gym. It's those kind of really subtle things. If you hear enough of them, it's all right, I'm going to need to be very careful about how I communicate towards the end of this conversation.
Tell the people listening, I love what you told me here, the pre-frame you have for the I want to think about it objection and let me speak to my partner objection. What is the pre-frame you do at the end of a call now? So, and tonality is important. You said this,
So I got this from Luke, and I think Luke got this from somewhere as well. So once I pitched the program to someone, we were having a really good conversation about the person that you got on the phone. They need to become the better version of themselves, and we need to identify the behaviors that have got them in the position that they're on the phone with you. And a lot of the time they are the procrastinator. They are someone that defers responsibility. They're people that, I'm starting on Monday, or I just can't be bothered type thing. We need to identify what those psychological traits are with them, and then we need to try and, in a very subtle way, tell them the person that they need to be on the phone. So once I've kind of communicated as soon as I've done the pitch, I then go off on a bit of a tangent, and I say the tonality is really key with this. And I haven't had loads of practice with this. This is actually quite a recent thing that I've implemented. So get to the end of the pitch, and I'll just kind of say, look, does that all make sense? And I might just answer any questions that they might have there and then. And I'll say, look, just as a little side note, I think that, having spoken with you just now, you are 100% the type of person that we would get really good results with, and the type of person that we'd absolutely love working with. And I'll only say this if this is genuine, to be fair. I'll get a vibe for that. And then I'll say that, okay. And then the next bit goes off on a bit of a rant, which will seem really weird to them at the time. So it's I start off with going, look, we'd love working with people like you. And I know that if you commit to this program, you know, we're going to see the best results with people like you. And then the rant comes. So you go, because, you know, Charlie, it blows my mind, Charlie, the amount of people that I speak to on a daily, weekly basis that, you know, they've been looking at our social media videos for like the last year, 18 months. They've been receiving all of our emails. They've been clicking all of our links in our emails. They've been following us in some capacity. And, you know, they jump on calls like this and we have a conversation and they air it all out. And they get actually kind of excited that this is going to be actually finally the solution they've been waiting for and they've been thinking about and dreaming about. But and then this is the bit where the rant really gets hard. But what will absolutely blow your mind, Charlie, is the amount of people that have been doing that. And then when push comes to shove, you know, they want to go away and have a little think about it, or, you know, they want to defer responsibility onto their partner, or, you know, they don't necessarily see a good opportunity when it comes around. And it's, you know, you speak to them 6 or 12 months later and they're in the exact same position. In fact, they're worse than they were when I first spoke with them. And it's an even harder struggle for them to get in. And then the tone comes down again. So like you ramp up, like, oh God, is he going to literally explode at me on the phone? It's like, but do you know what, Charlie? It's because of people like yourself that, you know, who are action takers, who, you know, see a good opportunity and run with it when it comes. They don't defer responsibility onto their partner or, you know, other people. They take that they take that opportunity and they run with it. I mean, does that sound like you, or am I, you know, going completely left field here? And then they'll go, firstly, they'll be a bit shocked about what they've just heard. But what I've seen so far is people respond really well to it. So they'll go, no, you're right. No, I probably, this is a lady I spoke to a few weeks ago. She goes, do you know what, you're right. Like, I probably would just go away and think about it. But no, like, I think this is exactly what I need. I was like, cool, well, let's get you signed up then. So it's that psychological of, even though the rant is explaining exactly who they are, but the person that they need to become is the person that no longer procrastinates, no longer defers responsibility, no longer says, oh, you know, I'm just gonna speak with my partner about it. And you're kind of communicating that's who you need to become in like a really subtle way.
People behave in the way that they identify themselves. So if you can get them to identify themselves in a certain way, they will then behave in that way. So for instance, if I was to try and, you know, you see people trying to get people to donate for charity, like at the train station or wherever. If you open up with a question, hey, are you, would you consider yourself a generous person? Most people go, yeah, sure I am. Well, now I've ticked the box of being a generous person, go, oh, well, what would be really great is to find out, and then you've now identified as generous. But if you now walk off and go away, you're walking away from that identity. So what you're doing is like you're pre-framing what their identity is as a person versus what it shouldn't be.
But you say that though, but I think you can shoehorn people into it and actually you can stick them in a corner, because like there's times where, you know, I'm sure people say, look, you know, you sound like you're an action taker, you sound like this, but it's like at the same time it's like, oh, okay, yes I am. And it like I think there's a skill to getting them to realize that, as opposed to being guilted into it.
Yes.
I think it's very subtle.
Yeah. So where I was referencing that from is a guy called Robert Cialdini, Dr. Robert Cialdini, in a book called, I think it's Persuasion or Influence, and he talked about that concept of that if you were to ask someone, would you see yourself as an adventurous person or a generous person or a fun person, then you follow up with a request, they're more likely to do it because they tick the box. So it's kind of similar concept, but obviously yours is, rather than trapping them in a corner with some wordplay, you're kind of almost motivating
you need to be this, you know, I don't want to see a procrastinator and then have a conversation with them in a year's time, because I've seen, you know, they're in a worse position than they were when they could have just signed up and actually got things started with their health and fitness. So yeah, it's got to be like, it does take some practice to deliver it quite well.
And the tonality that you delivered it in as well, like with some points, was really, really good.
You've just got to like bring it down, then ramp it up, then bring it back down, and then it's kind of a bit casual. It's just a bit like, I mean, am I right? Like, am I right, or am I just like completely shooting, you know, left field here?
And you said you get 20 to 30 signups a month. Yeah. Where are those signups coming from?
So I do now track where everyone's coming from. So like before, we just look at total number, but I want to know where they're coming from now. So like last month, for example, we had 3 walk-ins that signed up. So like there was probably about 7 or 8 different metrics that we now track in regards to where are they coming from? Have they come from an email inquiry? Have they come from a DM? So like it takes a little bit more work to do, but we attributed them now. So I think when I last looked, it isn't nearer 50-50 now in regards to, so like we'll probably get on average between 8 and, it's quite a big range, but maybe between like 8 and 15 through paid ads. And then the rest of them will be from some sort of organic nature. So like we normally get somewhere between between 3 and maybe 8 referrals a month. And there might be some other ones that come in from organic channels. So we've got a few other smaller rods in the water, which sometimes deliver, some good results.
So in terms of marketing, you're getting leads and signups from various channels, paid, email, organic, referral, walk-in. So you've got a nice flow of different channels coming in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of the things through like CRMs is massively underutilized. So like we actually have something where I know not every CRM is the same, but like we have, if someone's not clicked on our, interacted with any of our emails for a certain period of time, they'll get sent an email saying, hey, we've seen that you've not interacted with anything for like a long period of time. Can you just click this link to let us know you still want to hear from us, or or just update your email information. So there's like a 2 or 3 sequence emails with that. If they haven't clicked the first one, I'll get another one saying, hey, just want to check to see if you had got this message. And then if they haven't done it the second time, the third one says to them, look, hey, just if you want, just let us know this is your email address. And once you have entered your email address, there might be a little gift for you at the end of it. So we have had some people that have got to that third email, they've updated their email address, or they've just confirmed it is still theirs, and then the next page when they've done that has sent them to an offer. Nice. And we've had people sign up from previous who have been done a trial or a membership before that have signed up from that.
That's so good. And there's so many avenues to get leads and customers from the database that you already have.
There's
existing
quite a few
leads,
things.
trialists, customers that I still think are underutilized. And people are becoming more sophisticated. I think gyms are becoming more like real businesses in terms of the sense of how they sell and the workflows they have. They have their inbound leads, their outbound leads, their older prospects. We're getting more sophisticated, but there's so much untapped potential with most fitness businesses out there. And I think it's just only becoming more, like it's getting more advanced every single year. But most people still aren't there, but it's definitely happening for sure. So what's next for you in the gym? Like what are your next goals? Like you've had this roller coaster journey of moving to a new exciting site, big team, new brand, team leads, financial difficulties, but you've worked your way through that. You're in the best spot ever. Teams in place, profits you're now profitable, taking a salary, becoming more profitable. What's next for you in the business?
I've had a baby now.
Oh, congratulations.
So Ethan, he's 4 months old now. So I want to spend more time with him. I want to spend more time with Holly, my partner. So we've got a goal to get to 250 within the next 250 members within the next 12 to 18 months. And now it's predictable as to how that's going to happen, so that I can kind of pinpoint, best worst case scenario, it'd probably be about 18 months to get there. Give or take if any other challenges kind of come up in that time. So that's kind of like the main aim, is to get there. And then it's just to kind of see, how do I put it? Kind of think about what's next. Like ages ago, I was like, I want, multiple sites, this, that, and the other. I now know I don't really want that.
Do you think, I was thinking this, and I could be completely wrong, like obviously, having the 8 team members there, was there also an emotional reason to have the team members as well as a practical one? Like, I've got a team of 8, or was that?
No, so I was thinking that, the game I was playing, I want high volume, we're going to need team members. Let's develop them over a period of time, and then they're just there ready to go. And I thought that was going to be the quickest way to do it. But it just turned out to not be the case. Really.
I got you. I was kind of thinking, because you were like, multiple facilities and this. I think
there was that. There was a bit of that.
Yeah. There's kind of that. I personally think some people want those multiple facilities not for the financial outcome, but there's a badge where it's like, we own multiple facilities.
Well, this is the thing though. So like, there's definitely people that own multiple sites, but could probably earn the same sort of revenue with just one site if they just streamlined it and had it set up a little bit better. I think there's, you're right. I think there is a bit of a badge of having like multiple facilities, but as I say, I think if you, again, it's that critical thinking, isn't it? If you see someone that's got 2 or 3 facilities, it's like, right, what are you running? How much are you charging? And it's like, okay, so you're earning this with 3 facilities. Have you thought about, playing about with some of the levers that actually drive the revenue, and maybe just like, you could have just done that with 1.
Yeah, less effort.
Less people to deal, I think, as you say, I think it's a bit more of a badge as opposed to like a practical way of, like earning more revenue, really. I think you can do that really well if you just set the gym that you have up with, make sure it's got the right amount of space, you've got the right model, you're charging the right amount of money for it. I think that's easier than having multiple different ones.
So yeah, thank you for being part of an FMA, and it's been great to play a role in the journey that you have, and it's great to see where you are now and where you're going, and it just looks like you're doing really, really great things. So amazing work on everything there.
Appreciate it.
Amazing. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you can catch future episodes.